Hello. Welcome again to Just Read It, a spectacular but brief review of best-selling books. And today I have two guests. We're going to be discussing James Faragone's The Woman Who Broke Code, or The Woman Who
Smashed Code.
It's got two titles. That's confusing enough. But not to be confused, I have two wonderful local artists, Kelley Baker and John Dover. And let's start by introducing ourselves to our eager audience. Kelley, tell us a little bit about what you write.
I'm Kelley Baker, and first and foremost, I'm a filmmaker. I've been a filmmaker for probably 35 years, but being a filmmaker, I'm also a writer. I've written 2 books on filmmaking, and my most recent book is a book called Road Dog. And Road Dog is about my adventures. I booked a bunch of tours to show my films all over the country. And it was kind of like a punk tour without a music tour without the punks. But it was me, my dog, and an old van. And I did this for 7 years, and I'd go out for 2 months at a time. And so when I did this, I've got 250,000 miles on that van now, and another dog. I wore out everything. So that's the adventures that we had.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. Now you're also a musician, aren't you?
I am,
as well
yes.
as a writer. But let's talk about the book that you wrote first, that you're going to push for us.
Sure,
today.
yeah. The book I brought today is my most recent out of my Johnny Scotch series. It is Johnny Scotch, A Song for Charlie. My series is kind of my love affair and appreciation of old pulp novels and hard-boiled detectives, only in modern times. So Johnny Scotch, Justice Served Neat. And kind of loosely was created as a alter ego on the stage for myself, actually, when I was on the road. And one catch is I never really got in quite as much trouble as Johnny manages to get into.
You don't solve mysteries?
I just try and find where the bar is, usually.
All right, that's the story of most musicians as I hear it,
Very
but that's
much so,
very
yeah.
prejudiced. All right, we are going to talk about, and I've got 2 male guests here to talk about what should be a feminist book, but that's the way the cards played. The Woman Who Broke Code, as I'll call it, is the story of a woman who is actually the forerunner of cryptology, probably in the world. So I'm going to ask you, Kelley, to kind of give us a little overview, get us started.
Oh, I get the overview. You see, and I just forgot the woman's name now. It was
Smith.
Friedman. It was, I want to say Carolyn, but you're Carolyn.
Okay. Do you remember
her
what
name?
Mary? It's Mary, isn't it?
No.
It's not Mary.
All right.
I've got
Well,
my
let's
cheat
go
sheet.
on.
Hang on.
We'll all find out.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth.
Okay.
Oh, aren't we professionals
Can
here?
we do this again?
All right. Elizabeth. No, we're not. We're going to
Okay,
as we
that's
are.
okay. I got my thing, my notes. Elizabeth Smith, who becomes Elizabeth Friedman, is out of work and looking for work, and she's approached by this crazy millionaire who had this place in Illinois, and he brought all these people in, and she's originally brought in because they're trying to crack the codes for the plays of William Shakespeare. They're convinced that Francis Bacon wrote them, and they hire her to work with this, and this is where she starts looking at these codes and figuring stuff out, and it's there she meets William Friedman, who becomes her husband, who he also becomes an amazing code cracker, if you will. And so the book is really about mostly her life, but about their lives, because they both, starting really before World War I, but they were cracking all these codes through World War II and beyond.
Right.
It's a fascinating story.
Fascinating story, and untold before. Now, what was your take? Did you know all of this before you?
I did not a clue. I mean, much like pretty much the American public or the world wouldn't have known. Because, I mean, I think what I found almost most fascinating wasn't just, not knowing about her, because honestly, we don't know about a lot of people that are in highly classified fields.
This is true.
But even up until her death, she was so bound in by those rules, I think just a personal honor to an extent, that even then she was almost unwilling to let go any of the information that surrounded her and her activities. I thought that was fascinating.
But she kept a complete record of everything.
Yeah.
And it was this Fagone, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, who stumbled across it and decided this is a fascinating story. And I think what's even more outrageous as a woman is that she worked with the FBI.
Don't get me started on the FBI.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now, what is the name of the FBI guy?
Hoover.
Thank you. Vacuum cleaner.
Yep.
And that's what he did.
He did suck, yes.
And he stole all of the credit for her work.
Yep.
Just wiped her out of history.
Yeah.
And so I'm so grateful to this author who found this extraordinary woman. Now, did you have any thoughts about women's liberation as you read this book, or was it just a male's view of interesting history?
No, I'm working on a project about a woman who's basically been lost to history. And I've been working on this for a long, long time. She was a writer. And those stories have always fascinated me. The stories of the 3 women who were involved in the space launch. You know, some of those things. I mean, there's so much stuff that we don't know. And here we stumble upon this woman, William Friedman. And so to me, this is like another great story that needs to be told. And so I hate to say that I wasn't surprised that we haven't heard of her because of the way history gets written, but history needs to get rewritten. And I have to say, with one little aside, when we talked about the FBI, when I was in 4th grade, I read this book, you know, The FBI Story, and I just thought it was so amazing. I mean, you know, I was a kid, right? And I'm reading this book, and it's debunking everything from that, you know, I mean, Hoover was not a nice person. We'll leave it right there.
There go the myths.
Not that I actually continued to believe it was a good thing, but the way he manipulated and did everything is a wonderful story that comes out in this book. But she was amazing, as was her husband.
As was her husband. One little comment, and then I want your comment, but one of the things that struck me is that all of the work that they did together, which was so loving between them, they were willing to share. But they had to publish under his name because they wouldn't credit a woman.
Yeah.
So, but I wonder, John, you're the youngest among us, were you touched by the romantic side of this?
I was, and actually, the one thing that disappointed me about their relationship was that, you know, they worked together for years, and they were known as a team. But there came a point when it was only truly acceptable for him to have a job in that field, even though she was seen as even an equal or better. And I got very disappointed that they had to eventually split, and they were working on entirely different things. You know, he's working on, you know, on Japan, and she's working on Germany, completely different parts of the world.
And
Can't
she was
even
working
talk.
with the Coast Guard.
Yes.
She was working with the Coast Guard.
And they couldn't even talk. You know, so it's like it's amazing that their relationship held so strong through so much, you know, covert, you know, they had to hide so much information from each other, and that, which I think goes to show just how strong their bond with each other was.
Well, it had to be, frankly, as a feminist woman, because they would only go to her when they couldn't get to her husband.
Yeah.
And she was the one who actually created the cryptology. And let's hear it for the liberal arts. She was able to do it because she was a master of language, many languages, and she got into it because she could see no matter what language, there were patterns.
And just showing her capability through that. I mean, because, yeah, when she started, she didn't know any other languages. I mean, when she was picked up on by
What's his Fabian?
Fabian, when she was picked up by him, you know, little farm
she
girl
was
that
a
had
Greek
she-
and Latin scholar.
Yes, so she understood that, and
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of her pattern recognition came from. You know, those base languages, especially dealing with the Germanic languages, she probably had a leg up on many aspects of that.
Yes.
Well, do you wonder what they could have accomplished together if the government hadn't forced them to work separately? And that's the thing that I find sad to a certain point, is that, because it's one part, it's a love story too, between the two of them. And if they could have worked together, I mean, they could have done so much more. They could have, I mean, it really could have. And to a certain extent, because he has his breakdown, maybe she could have saved him beforehand.
Yes.
You know, I mean, those kind of things.
Well,
So,
recognizing.
right. So by pulling them apart, the government did not play to their strengths.
No, but
Right.
we'll political commentary.
Yeah, we'll go with that some other time.
But what a tribute to love itself, because, you know, I think I'd have said, well, honey, how come you're getting all the limelight? But yes, and she endured it. She loved him. He loved her. They trusted. I think in a spy game, here were two people cemented by unquestionable trust of one another. There's wonderful irony. Well, all right, guys, would you believe the time has already passed?
Too quickly.
Too quickly.
Well, here's what we do, is if you recommend the book, then you throw in a red marble, so the audience can hear the click and know. If you didn't think it was a book you could recommend, well then, blue. So tell the audience, Kelley, are they...
I'm
should they
torn.
buy
I'm
the book?
torn on this one because I love the story. I was not a fan of the writing, and there were some parts of the book that it was just like, why are we doing this? Why are we here? But I think it's important history. I think she was an amazing person. So I will go with red, but like I said, I was not a fan of the writing.
All right.
I'm similar, and I can understand why many people might not like the writing style, because it almost felt schizophrenic at times. You had this beautiful narrative contrasted by some very stark, almost textbook style writing. But I think that's what actually pulled me in. So I really appreciate and love this book, and I would absolutely recommend it for the same reasons. I mean, the historical value alone is tantamount to any recommendation
It's
I
music
could
to a musician's ears.
Absolutely. So I would definitely recommend it.
Well, as a feminist, I'm so delighted to see this story revealed. So I wouldn't care if the writing was Jabberwocky. So I too recommend it. It's an enlightening story. And anyway, well, you see how quickly it goes, and there's so much more we could do. But I want to thank you both for coming and being with us. And again, the title of your book?
Road Dog?
Road Dog.
Road Dog.
And A Song for Charlie.
Song for Charlie. All right. So after you finish reading about our spy story, 2 other wonderful books for you to read. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us again. Please come back. Consider subscribing, because we're kind of sporadic in our presentations, and we'd love to have you with us. Thank you for being with us on Just Read It.